activities. Oh, sorry. And then the outcome could be in ServiceNow. So then, really common one is generating tickets, but it could be updating an existing item, something like that. And then on the flip side, if I'm doing my work primarily in ServiceNow, I'm looking at a screen, I'm updating an incident, I want that to trigger, if I've got some type of action within a mainframe, within a legacy application, at that point I could trigger a robot to do, any of those activities, gather the data, bring it back to ServiceNow, do an additional activity with it, maybe, submit it somewhere, and then update the status within ServiceNow. So really, I've got the flexibility and freedom, to design my process really wherever it needs to begin, whether that's with an RPA automation, whether that's within, one or many actions or conditions within ServiceNow. So, to provide a little bit more detail on that, at a very high level, I could start with either an attended automation. So as a user, every morning I can sign into my machine, I can start an automation and it can do a few things for me, or I could have an unattended robot working 24 hours a day. That could be triggered by one or many things. That could be an email coming in, that could be, a line added to a spreadsheet or a database or something like that. And then once I've triggered my robot, either manually on a schedule or based on any of these triggers, it can do one or many things in one or many legacy applications. So, as examples here, I've got, PDF document that could be handwritten, that could be semi-structured, that could be a poor quality scan. We see a lot of Excel documents, a lot of CSVs, things like that. I'm considering those legacy, a lot of custom web applications. And especially, we're going to talk about mainframes a lot today, but my action could be as simple as scraping some data, entering some data, maybe reconciling it against multiple systems. And those are all very easy to do within an RPA workflow. And then once I've got all that data, I can start doing operations within ServiceNow. So that could be checking to see if an incident exists. If it does, go ahead and update it, with the data that I just pulled and structured. And then if it doesn't, go ahead and create one. And we'll show you how in just 1 second. A couple of things I did want to highlight just on the right. Again, you can always start with attended or unattended. You can do a hybrid approach to kind of, expand the scope of your process, really beginning as early as you need within the process. And then, from an RPA perspective, the triggers are, there's, virtually any type of trigger you'd like to kick off your process in an unattended or attended fashion. And then really, one of the things we're going to talk about quite a bit in the walkthrough is, as I'm interacting with mainframes, challenging documents, challenging web interfaces, things like that, I've got multiple methods. So I'll try out, my standard UI automation with selectors. I can try out AI computer vision, which is a more advanced way to do UI automation. I can try hotkey navigation in a lot of legacy applications. And then you can always check if we do have activities like the Office activities for Excel and others. We're going to talk about the terminal emulation activities today. We've got OCR, document understanding, offers a lot of additional intelligent character recognition type capabilities, but these are all different methods and capabilities that I can throw at my legacy applications. I can attempt multiple methods, I can triage it, and whatever the best results are, I can then take into any modern system I'd like, including ServiceNow. And then I did want to say really quickly too, it's not just about data entry and data pulling, but you might have a lot of data cleansing, validation, structuring types of steps. You can always do those to make sure that they're in the right format and the right structure before you try to enter them into a ticket, into a system like ServiceNow. And there we go. Sorry, I think PowerPoint froze for a second. So how we do that is that's via the UiPath official activities for ServiceNow, at least the ServiceNow part of it. And I'll go through these pretty quickly now because we are going to walk through them in depth. But really, the idea is if I have my data, if I have my variables, if I have everything set up as part of my workflow, and then I've got a few common activities like looking up, one or many records within ServiceNow, making updates to them, deleting them, creating a new one. So, inserting, I can do all of those via these activities. They're drag and drop. They've got visual user interfaces like you can see on the right. They're all wizard based. So it's a great way to do either one at a time or batch updates, inserts, deletes within ServiceNow. And I did want to highlight, you can write directly to production tables. We do that a lot just in development and testing, but we do have great bulk API activities for import sets and upserts. So that's a great way to work with staging tables, not touch production directly, and work directly within sort of the governance and the structure that you've already set up within ServiceNow. And the last activities we have, we also have the add, download, and delete attachment activities. So it's a great way to, as a simple example, if I'm downloading attachments from emails as part of my unattended automation, I can take that attachment, I can scrape data from it, I can generate an incident, and I can also include that original attachment. All of the above is pretty simple to do within Studio from the UiPath side. So from the ServiceNow side, we've got an official spoke in the ServiceNow store. And so the idea for that really is, if I'm doing work within ServiceNow and that's the trigger for my process, let's say I'm updating an incident, I submit it, I put in certain values, that could be all I need for a trigger to kick off a robot, one or many robots, and those robots can do everything we just talked about. So they can go to a mainframe, they can open up documents, they can open up CSVs, go to really any of those legacy applications. And then that data can go really anywhere you'd like. In a lot of cases, it will come back to ServiceNow. And so as I'm working in ServiceNow, the beauty of this is I don't have to learn, as a new employee, I learned ServiceNow. I've got intuitive views, I've got dropdowns, pre-selectable values. It's pretty easy to understand what I'm doing in ServiceNow. I don't need to learn, the last 10 years of spreadsheets, or I don't have to learn any of these mainframe systems. I can have my robot do that for me. And I think that's really the value that we see of sort of, promoting one interface. I'm looking at a single pane of glass within ServiceNow, and then my robot can help me in the background do one or many things in one or many types of applications. And so the only, couple of things I'll point out here are, we can absolutely take the data from, an application that was triggered by my action in ServiceNow, put it right back into ServiceNow. That could also lead to actions in additional systems. If I've got other systems beyond this workflow, RPA can be sort of that integration point to get data from one point to the other. And then the very last piece too is the triggers are defined in Workflow Designer. So I'm going to walk through that a little later in the walkthrough, but there's a lot of different triggers within ServiceNow's Workflow Designer that can kick off processes, work with queue items, and do a whole bunch of things, provision robots. That really opens up a lot of opportunities in this type of workflow. And before taking a quick pause, I did want to finally just provide a little bit of detail on the ServiceNow spoke. So what you'll see is the spoke has a lot more programmatic actions, that are done via orchestrator triggered by ServiceNow. So in the screenshot here, you'll see within that UiPath spoke, I've got environment management, job management, machine management, process management, etc. Queue management. And so all of these are potential outcomes based on triggers I've defined within ServiceNow. And then so I can look up queues, I can create a robot. I can do lots of things with sessions and machines and environments via orchestrator, and all of that's very seamless. And I can also have, in a lot of cases, I'll have a user, working on ServiceNow, and we don't want to disrupt them with any of these actions. So I can actually, via orchestrator, trigger unattended robots, do that work on different VMs, and that data comes right back to the user. So with that, I'll pause for 1 sec and just check in the chat if there's any questions. Apologize, I didn't mean to go too fast. I did want to just cover all those details before we get into use cases. So I'll just pause for 1 sec, see if anybody has any questions.
Seems like for now there are no questions.
All right, great.
Oh,
there
one
we go.
just popped up. What are the data provided by ServiceNow to bot like ServiceNow World, etc.?
That's a great question. So one of the capabilities within the spoke is you can actually import arguments. You can take virtually any ServiceNow field value for the item that you're working in, that you're using as a trigger, and you can pass that as an argument to use within your UiPath workflow. So, most common example we see of that is if there is a case ID or some type of identifier, we can absolutely, like a ticket number, We can pass that as an argument, and the UiPath robot has that for any subsequent workflow activity. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. And so for use cases, before we get into our walkthrough, I've got very, very high level use cases here, but what we see a lot, working with customers, working with ServiceNow, it's yep.
Can we see the earlier slide?
The which one? This one right here?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Another question, so can you integrate Automation Hub with ServiceNow, particularly inputting automation ideas efforts with their ROI?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a little out of scope for what we're talking about here, but the quick answer is Automation Hub has open APIs. So we've got formal API integration between ServiceNow and Orchestrator. We don't have formal activities built out yet for Automation Hub. I think I know I've seen the idea brought up. I know there are some things in progress, but at a minimum, you can build out custom APIs yourself using those open APIs with Automation Hub, and it should be pretty easy to map data inbound to ServiceNow to Automation Hub or vice versa. So yeah, really good question. We don't have anything formal yet, but the capabilities are definitely available now, and I would say stay tuned to see more because it is definitely an idea we've explored. All right, and unless there are any questions on the previous slide, just talking about use cases at a very high level, I think what we see are, really common ones are onboarding, provisioning, which goes along with onboarding, verification activities, lots of different personnel actions within HR, and then on the ITSM side, there's a lot of knowledge management, change management, all types of things, but really across all of these, and I've got some specific examples in the next slide. I think, I was looking to highlight a couple that include legacy applications, and I realized the vast majority of these do still incorporate some level of legacy applications. A lot of times we'll see Excel. For a lot of financial activities and some credential activities, we will see mainframes. As sort of one of those, they do a lot of critical things, and there's not really room for disruption. Like a lot of those mainframe systems, there isn't an immediate impetus to move those, because they're so deeply rooted with, a lot of critical data that, in a lot of cases, we do have to do the types of interactions we're talking about today. And, in a lot of cases too, we see a lot of we see a lot of use cases around synchronization. So I've got a customer who, they've got an Oracle system that provides a nightly output in CSV format, and all of that data, it's about 50 to 70,000 rows nightly, needs to move into ServiceNow. That could absolutely be a one-time migration, but then, if you do want to keep that old system, and in this case, the customer is keeping it for the foreseeable future, that's a nightly or daily activity we do with that integration with ServiceNow, starting with the CSV. And there's a lot of examples like that. On the next slide, I've got just a couple highlighted here. So there are a few, you'll see, one of them incorporates Excel, one of them incorporates PDFs. There's a lot of opportunities to use multiple methods like OCR, like Excel activities. And then we do see a lot of migration and synchronization between a legacy system and a modern one like ServiceNow. And that's a very common use case we see with a lot of our customers, that there's a lot of different ways to facilitate that. I've got a couple of demos and use cases here, but I'm going to skip through these. We'll send it out. You may have already seen these on YouTube. They are publicly available, but there are a couple of examples of really what we can do. These both use the spoke, where a robot can automatically be triggered within ServiceNow, or I could start it manually and for everything from the last 24 hours, I can do this daily. I can synchronize from a legacy system to ServiceNow. And similarly, as part of a workflow like onboarding, this one begins in ServiceNow where I generate a new ticket for a new employee. As soon as I submit it, that triggers a robot to do things with an Active Directory in SAP. You could absolutely put a mainframe in there as well. I've seen that with customers. And then once we pull that data out, we've made the updates, we've generated or reset the credentials. UiPath can do one or many things as outcomes. That could be sending an email notification, that can be updating the ServiceNow record, that could be updating additional systems of record. So having gone through, all of the kind of high level stuff, we really wanted to dive right into Studio and, talk through some of the capabilities we have to accomplish a lot of the things I just talked about. And so the ones we're going to highlight today are terminal emulation, as well as other, methods that you may try with terminals and mainframes, the official ServiceNow activities, and the UiPath spoke. So with that, I'll provide just a little bit of a summary of the terminal emulation activities, and then we'll jump right into Studio. So for terminal emulation, what it does is the activities connect to a terminal. We've got built-in integrations for several tools, including Attachment Reflection, Attachment Extra, Rocket Blue Zone, IBM Personal Communications, Reflection for Unix, IBM EHLL API, and a couple of others. It's completely GUI and / wizard based. So it is completely visual, and the common activities we see the most are getting or retrieving text, getting fields, screen position, sending out keys, text. So you can send command keys, and then waiting for certain text. So as a mainframe, a terminal screen is loading, waiting for something so that you can get the corresponding text, and then putting that into your workflow. And I did want to highlight before we jump in, the activities are great. They've got a lot of capabilities, but you absolutely want to try out multiple methods, and you really want to see what's the most reliable, what's the most effective. And, we always recommend trying out just conventional screen scraping. You could try OCR scraping if you'd like. AI computer vision offers a couple of additional capabilities. And then we see a lot of hotkey navigation within terminal emulation screens. So with all of that said, I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Michael, who works directly with me in DC. We've been playing around with the activities a bit, and we wanted to show just a couple of capabilities just for terminal specifically.
Sounds good. Yeah, Mo, you mentioned Terminator emulation there. You got me a little worried. So I don't know what Mo's up to, but hey, everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Michael Mellon. I'm an associate pre-sales technical consultant here at UiPath. Work very closely with Mo. And today I'm going to show you a little bit about the mainframe and terminal capabilities here with Studio. So let me share my screen. And first things first, I am just going to show a quick example of how we can use some of the so like Mo was mentioning, basically there are two paths we can go down here. We can either use the UI automation activities that we probably already know and love. They will work fine with terminals, and as you can see here, I've got a quick demo that I'll run, which is basically just going to go ahead and use hotkeys or type intos from our UI automation activities to navigate through a little demo terminal here. So I'm just gonna give that a run. That's gonna load up real quick, and my hands are off here. So this is bot running. It's just gonna do a quick login, and then in a few seconds, it'll hit a breakpoint. So this, what you're seeing right here, all of this is being done with the UI automation activities. And I'd say the difference between using the UI automation activities and the specific terminal activities, the UI automation activities are going to be a little more agnostic, so you can use it with whatever terminal. You don't need to worry about that in particular. But on the other hand, you might want to tested a bit more. You can see in this demo, there are some delays between activities just to, make sure that the app has proper time to load and such. So I'd say if you can go with the terminal activities package, but know that you'll also have multiple options. So you'll still have a great backup in these UI automation activities. And so I'm just going to stop this and show you guys real quick the terminal activities. So I'm going to switch here. First things first, I gotta get rid of this. I'm gonna be using Sim 390 here to for my mainframe emulator, so I'm gonna get that started. Do that real quick. All right. I've hacked into the mainframe I'm in, so no, but let's see here. I gotta do this real quick. Hold on. All right, there we go. there we go. I had to change the background just to working with mainframes is like it's so fun. It's just like oh man, it feels so cool and like a real hacker or something. But no, I literally just started up an emulator, but whatever. Anyway, so let's see. Let's go ahead and pull up my terminal emulator right here. Wow, that's big. So this is what I'm going to be going through. Basically, just the music interactive computing system, and I'll go ahead and do some very quick activities, basically just to show some of the possibilities here. One nice thing is that if you get to a certain screen or a certain place that you want to save, it can be pretty easy to use the save feature to, I could need to save as. Basically, you can save it at a certain point in time, and I'll show you in just a second how that's going to help us. But let me real quick head over to Studio, and so I'm going to use this this workflow here to demonstrate. I just need to go to my activities, and for terminals here, it's under app integration. So the first thing you need to do on dealing with terminals is set the scope, and we do that with this terminal session activity. As soon as you drag that in, you'll be able to choose your provider. So in this case, I'm using Rocket Blue Zone, which I believe now is just Rocket Terminal Emulator. But you will see some other options here. And like I said, if you don't see your option, if these aren't working for you, you still have the UI automation activities to go with. But for now, I'm just going to use Rocket Blue Zone here. So like I mentioned, when I was saving where it was, I can use an existing profile here, and that can make things a lot faster. Basically, I just need to load it up like that, and then I can click OK and go ahead. Or I can also just manually specify the address, which I'll do now. And go ahead and do it that way. And so once we do that, there we go. We'll pull up our UiPath terminal wizard here. And this is what we're going to be using to build out our activities. So if you're familiar with the recording tool from Studio, if you've done app recording, web recording, very similar concept here. Basically, we're just doing it slightly differently because our app is appearing in this wizard. So the first thing we need to do, I'll go ahead and actually that doesn't really help. So the first thing we need to do is just to send a quick control key, and we want to send a transmit or enter just to get started here. And that's going to get us sent to the first page. And you'll see too here, if I click, there it is. I guess I have to make this screen a little bigger maybe. Yeah, there we go. You'll see the recorded actions panel over here. So as I go through and do everything, it's going to be recording all of my actions. And then once I click save and exit, it's going to save that in the studio workflow. So let's just add a couple more real here. I'll click here, set text, set the username, and also set the password. Don't worry, that is public information. You're not taking anything from me. You can go Google that. You'll find what the sign-in password and username is online. I'm going to go ahead and transmit. That'll load up. Press enter again. Press enter again. All right. And then basically once we get to our main screen here, we could go on from here, do whatever we need to do. We'll just add real quick, you know, maybe we'll say set text, we'll go to option 3 to if we want to add a new user ID. Oh, yeah, and that's actually a good point, just to make sure so it knows where you're actually typing into. Good idea to click on that, highlight that like such. You can also tell it to move the cursor there if that helps. And there's also option to set field at a certain position. So let's go ahead and do that. Transmit. And I think you see the point, so we'll stop there. So once I'm satisfied with what I've accomplished with my terminal, I click save and exit. And just like we would expect with the normal recorder, all of our activities that we just set up appear right in Studio. So let me go ahead and demonstrate this with a quick run. I'm just going to change this workflow here and save that and give that a run. Yeah, and, you know, this is why it's good to, you know, check your activities and such. Of course, it's a demo, so anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Looks like we just had a field not found error. So, you know, I guess when I was adding those activities, maybe I wasn't careful enough about setting the cursor position and whatnot. But I think you guys understand where I'm going with that. And so I will, I guess, leave it there for any questions we have on the terminal activities or using UI automation activities to interact with terminals. I actually can't see the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions.
Michael, I don't see anything in the chat yet, but let's give everybody a minute or two. You know, just see if any questions come in, and I'll let you know as soon as I see one.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and I did want to say, you know, having worked with the terminal activities kind of out in the wild a bit, there is quite a bit of trial and error. I think I always recommend, you know, again, trying different methods, seeing what the most effective is, and you know, definitely a great case for, you know, putting in really good logging and exception handling just to make sure, you know, the expected result is found. If you're expecting data, if there's a blank, you know, make sure you log that, you do something with it, etc. No, Michael, you just got some kudos. So yeah.
Yeah,
No
just saw that.
questions otherwise, yeah. And we've got one question that what's the difference in the advanced activity?
The advanced activity. Oh, here.
Mhm.
I think so. That was just, let me see if I can get a session open real quick with this.
Yep, and as you're doing that, we have one more quick question on how does the selector look like for terminal activities? Are grid coordinates used?
Okay, so for the advanced activities, which you can see here on the activities toolbar, that was just some additional fields here, like the set field at position. So they're basically similar to the normal activities, but you know, might be a little more advanced, I guess. That's a terrible description, but yeah. So the advanced activities are still all going to appear in this terminal wizard. It's just a matter of you know, using these drop downs and such to choose the right activity.
Yeah, and I mean, just a couple of the additional things they add are, you know, get text and get field are part of your standard activities, and then, you know, at a certain position, it just sort of adds another layer of things you can try. So if you're looking for a specific position, if you're having trouble with get text, you can try get field or get text. You know, at position, I think move cursor and especially get screen area are a couple of advanced ones, just that they're just added. So really, you know, if I'm looking at a terminal, like, you know, if I'm trying terminal activities, you know, I can try get text first. I can try even just UI automation first based on how my results are. I may go to advanced, but I would really look at advanced and all of them really as just sort of one bucket of activities that you can use. Oh, great question there too. We've got a couple of additional questions. So Michael, do you know what the selector looks like for the terminal activities?
Yeah, let me, and I do have the chat pulled up now so I can see. Let me get rid of this real quick. And so I guess for the terminal activities, let's check back with our UI automation activities, and I can actually just try out one of these. So this is our first type into here. Let's see what the selector looks like. That's interesting. Let's see if UI automation has anything. Oh, I think that what was going on here is that basically it was just opening the terminal and then kind of just like sending hotkeys and type intos, like I guess not to anything in specific, just like kind of sending them out there, I guess. I didn't actually make this workflow, but let me see what this selector looks like here. Yeah, so we have the selector here for the terminal emulator, pretty simple. And then basically, I think everything inside of that is just going to be like a, yeah, not even really a selector really. It's just kind of sending it to that already opened application.
Sure, and Michael, we had a couple of additional questions. One was, is it mandatory to use terminal session with recording, or can you use the drag and drop? So you can absolutely use the drag and drop after attaching a session for some of our, I know it's not all of them, but for many of the selectable options, you can do an attach, kind of like an attached browser as opposed to like an open browser. Is it use existing session, Michael? Could you pull that up maybe on configure connection? I'm not sure if we have it for Rocket, but
Use existing session. What are
Yep.
you referring to? The configure
just within
connection?
that configure, yep.
Yeah.
You may not have it for this. So you can use
Oh, right. Yeah, you
profile, but
can do it
yeah.
for
Yep.
for attachment. You can attach in existing session if you already have one, pulled up.
Yeah, and then once you've recorded, I believe you can still drag in the activities within that scope. Is that correct?
Oh yeah,
Michael?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, just like you would any other activity there.
Perfect. Yeah, so like any automation, you can always use recording. Like the output of the recording will be in your workflow, then you can always build around it. You can make updates to what was recorded, etc. It's just one mechanism to get those activities in. Couple more questions. I really appreciate all the questions coming in. These are great. So I see really interesting one because Michael and I have just been working with a lot of SAP GUI automation. So for terminal activities and SAP WinGUI automation, I don't believe that would ever really be necessary, but we do have SAP WinGUI activities. And so we would definitely recommend using those. And then what we've seen with WinGUI, or especially the browser version of GUI, there's a lot of different methods you can throw at it. You can always try computer vision, AI computer vision, and others. But for WinGUI, specifically the desktop application, we do have activities. And Michael, if you even want to quickly install, just look up SAP WinGUI. We should be able to just even show what those look like.
Yeah, let me check real quick.
And as you're doing that, there's another question. So this is a good question. I'm not positive on the answer on unlocking the screen. So when you send a bad command to emulators, I can check on that. Because I'm pretty sure that would end up being a human in the loop type scenario where if you're locked out, you'd probably have to have a user unlock it, would be my guess. But then if you could simulate and send some text, to unlock it, I don't think you could. Maybe that would be an option, but I think that would probably be human in the loop if that helps answer the question from Kyle.
What are you looking for here, Mo? Something like that?
Go to manage packages within Studio. I think that's how we get it.
Oh,
And if
within
not, I
Studio.
can put it in the chat later. But yeah, go to our manage packages, go to official. As soon as it comes up, yep, go to official and then type in SAP to start. Let's see, we'll probably get a lot of items. So there's the bet. Go to marketplace. And see, there's probably a lot of SAP ones. Can you look up WinGUI?
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be one word or with a dot with a period in between. And if they aren't available here, I mean, I can find that while we're going through another part of the demo, and I'll definitely add it in the chat. But we do have WinGUI activities, and that's probably going to be what you would try for WinGUI, if that helps with that question. And then, so Michael, one more question is does terminal activity work on field positions on emulators? So if you want to get some text, and they need to check its cursor position, what are some options for that?
Yeah, so for that, you would basically when we set up our here, let me set up real quick. Just get this rolling. I'll show this off actually. So when we head into the wizard here, we have the option to move cursor and set to whatever row and column we need. And when we get the text, we actually have the option to also get field or get text at position and just set it that way.
Cool. And so I apologize. The SAP, the SAP WinGUI activities are actually already in Studio. So Michael, if you wouldn't mind going to the activities, just search for SAP. There'll be a subset of UI automation.
Sorry, in the packages.
So we don't even need a package. If you just search in activities, it should already be there.
Oh, yeah.
Just look up SAP. And these are all specific to WinGUI. So they support WinGUI 7.4 through 7.7. And all of those activities like click picture on screen, click toolbar button, expand tree, things like that are all designed specifically for WinGUI. All right, and yeah, so that was a lot of questions for terminal activities. And then let's see, there's a couple more. Yep, so thanks. So one question, a couple more, Michael, are, how stable the connection is with the terminal session. So that's really going to depend on the environment from what I've seen. I'd love to give a better answer on that. I mean, it is fairly reliable from what I've seen, but you will definitely want to put in some checks for timeouts, for lockouts. You'll want to design around some of those limitations. So if you notice that after a certain interval that you're getting locked out, things like that, you probably want to build that into your automation to try to keep it active. But Michael, any additional thoughts on just sort of the reliability really of that session?
No, I think honestly, from my experience, this was actually my first time using the terminal activities. And I'd say after trying it the first time, I've already gotten the sense of what's going to work, what's going to be more reliable. I think the one tip I would give would be careful about setting the cursor position. And honestly, for the terminal activities, that's about it. I think if you're going with the agnostic, UI automation activities, then you might, I actually am not sure in particular why these delays are here. I think it was just to yeah, actually this comment here explains is just to let it breathe if it needs time to load. So it sounds like I think Adam was making this, and I guess maybe as he was testing it out, it just worked better to add some brief delays. Let's see how long these delays are. Yeah, it's just like a few seconds or so. Yeah, I'd go with the terminal activities if you can. I think it was easy to work with the wizard and go through it like that. But if not, you're always going to have those UI automation activities that we know and love.
Yeah, and Michael, we had one last question about the delays. Can you go back to the terminal activities within Studio? And I believe, Rakesh, for your question, there's a couple of additional methods to incorporate. Michael, can you pull up the terminal activities just so we can see all the available ones? There's one I'm kind of thinking of for this. Yep, so just type in terminal to go back to those, and
these are here.
Oh no, we got them. Yeah, sorry. I was looking in the wrong place. So I believe wait field text and wait screen text are options. So you're basically waiting to see a certain thing as opposed to a delay. But otherwise, I think delays are probably going to be reliable as well, if that helps. So yeah, if you want to pull that in, we can look at it real quick.
Yeah, so I guess this might show a little better if we pull it up in the actual terminal session. Let's see if I can get that going. Okay, it works a little better if you just delete and drag in, I think.
Yeah, I think we switched it to attachment at one point too. So yeah, looks like you're just restarting it.
Yeah, so here's the wait text. So if we were to wait screen text, so literally, I guess, just anywhere on the screen.
Mhm.
And then you also have options for the field text. In this case, let's go to the actual field. So I think now, maybe if so if I highlight the field, then I can wait for field text and do it that way. Or wait for a text deposition if I've moved the cursor somewhere.
All right, great. I think that's all the questions we had. Just I guess one more quick minute. Any other questions about the terminals before we switch over? And we are going to come back to terminals. Time willing for the demo, so there will be other opportunities too. Great. I think we're good, Michael. Great job on that. Do you want to switch over and I can pull up the studio activities?
Absolutely.
All right, great. And I apologize, I'm going back between computers, so don't disorient anybody.
This is so sad. I have to get rid of my my hacker background.
You
Can't
do.
be hacking into the mainframe anymore.
There you go. All right, so the terminal activities, I mean, they really are going to be as reliable as the terminal sessions you have. You're going to have some trial and error, things like that. I think, conversely, when we're talking about a modern system like ServiceNow, our ServiceNow activities, in my experience, have been very smooth to use, including very, high volumes of data, and they're very intuitive. So I'll jump right into using the ServiceNow activities. And again, our idea is if Michael wrote his part of the workflow to pull data from a mainframe, now I might want to generate a ticket in ServiceNow for it. So I'll start by just looking up ServiceNow, and then within my ServiceNow integrations, within those official activities, I've got a couple of activities around attachment, bulk API, and then my ServiceNow object is what I'm going to spend the most time on today. And just really simple setup. If you get a ServiceNow, just a vanilla developer instance, they're freely available. That's what I'm using here. All I really need as a dependency is, there's a couple of ways to get credentials in, but within Orchestrator, I just set up a blank tenant here. I just set up an asset. And it's just a credential asset that has my Snow username and password, so my ServiceNow username and password, and I called it Snow. So all I have to do within Studio is drag in the ServiceNow scope. And if you've used a lot of our other native integration activities, you probably recognize there's a scope and then there's activities within that. And then, so one thing I'll highlight here is there are two ways to interact with these activities. One is design time, the other is actual runtime. And so if I click on configure and I put in data here, that's really going to be design time just for testing out, for trying things within Studio. And then within my properties, I've actually got the persistent runtime variables here and properties here. So I'm going to put in just my ServiceNow as the endpoint. I'm just going to put in my URL. And I'll put in my username and password manually here. And if you have additional security methods like client ID, client secret, you're using OAuth, this is where you can put them in. You also put them in via the properties. But once I've connected, I can actually use that ServiceNow instance now. But then what I'm also going to do is I've saved as variables, and actually skipped a step. I'm going to do a get credential first. Within my sequence, and so the asset name was just that asset within Orchestrator, so Snow. What I'll do is I'll output the password and username, just via the get credential activity. So I'll just make it, I think I might already have actually a new workflow. So yeah, I'll just set a variable for Snow password. And I'll just say Snow UN for username. And then within the properties of my ServiceNow application scope, I can just pull those in. So for the password, and so I could set the client secret and client ID in a similar fashion at any point of my workflow before this. But for now, I'm just going to use the Snow password and my ServiceNow username. And then for the endpoint URL, I could use a variable. I could assign it. I'm actually just going to paste it in now. And what should happen is within that ServiceNow application scope, I'm just going to show a couple of the activities. So if I go back to ServiceNow, if I look up, let's say get or update, I'm going to try update here, or let's do update first. The cool thing is once I've configured it, so now it's working off that scope, I can select any of my tables, any of my objects within ServiceNow. A really common one is incident. And then what you'll see is by default, I'll have the system ID. So if I have a variable using that as an identifier, I can put that in here. But then if I click on my add multiple fields, this is every single field within that table. And then I can select any of these fields to use as part of my workflow to update. And you'll see the data type, which comes into play in terms of getting your variables in the right format. And also just as a reference, you'll see the field, the display name, and the sample values. The sample value will help me identify, what are some potential values? What does it look like? I know that it's a date time. Here's the format here. So really cool way to just, really quickly add items to ServiceNow. I'm actually going to take that out for now, and I'm just going to put in an insert. And that could be a ServiceNow record directly to the prod table. That could be an import set. Really, any of the, like however you would do it manually, you can absolutely put it in here. So we recommend not writing directly to production using import sets. But for now in my dev instance, I'm just going to insert a record. And within that record, if I go to incidents again, I'm inserting a record. What I'll do is I'm actually going to create a variable for the sysID. Just so at any point in my workflow, I can reference that, I can call it back, I can make an update to it later if I'd like. And then for the fields, what I'm going to do is my mandatory field is short description. So I'll just search for short. And it'll pull up all the fields below. So if I just click on short description and enter, that field becomes added to my expression builder basically. And what I can do here is I can put in any data in a string format as my value. So I could reference a variable. If we took something from a mainframe, we could reference it here. I can just put in just some hard-coded text for now. So I can say, just test item for meetup. I can validate it before I submit or try anything out. So it looks like a valid command. I'm going to hit done. And this is all using ServiceNow's APIs, by the way. So the more you understand about, building queries and doing things within that, all of that can be leveraged here. But really simple example here. I'm just going to run it. And what should happen is in my incident table in ServiceNow, I should get an item with that short description. It's a demo, so we'll see if anything goes wrong. But I think this one, there should be no problems with something this simple. And there was an issue. You know why? I apologize. I've got to go back to my I get credential and I've got to put in the folder.
Classic.
Every time. And I believe I'm just using my shared folder here, but in Orchestrator, I'm just going to double check where my asset's coming from. So I'll just put in shared. And again, before we run it, all we're doing here is we're getting a credential from Orchestrator. It's in the Orchestrator credential store. It pulls out the username and password, feeds that to the ServiceNow application scope, and I should just be adding a ticket. So I'll go ahead and run it again. And looks like it's done. And the easiest way to check what happened is just going right back to ServiceNow, looking up incidents. And if I go to all of my, really any of them, open all, open unassigned, just move this, and there we go. So the newest item I have is test item for meetup. and it has all the default values. So any of those values, as long as they're in the correct format, can incorporate data as part of my workflow. And if I want to make any updates, so a common example is, let's say I pull data from a mainframe, a different legacy application, I create a ticket, and then I route that to somebody to make updates to it. I can make updates via that activity as any part of the future part of the workflow, if that makes sense. I'll pause here, really simple example of the ServiceNow activities. Were there any questions on just how to use that, capabilities, anything else on the activities? Just checking the chat real quick. All right, great. So yeah, that part I think was simple enough. I'm going to pull up the ServiceNow spoke just to show that side, and then we've got a little bit of time. Maybe we can build a demo. So pause sharing real quick. All right, and so this is a more built out ServiceNow instance that just has a lot more capabilities, a lot more items. It is production, so I shouldn't be making edits to it. So I'm just going to show a couple of capabilities, but specifically I did want to walk through the spoke just at a high level. So if I go to the ServiceNow workflow section, if I go to my workflow editor, this is all of the workflows I've got configured within the ServiceNow instance, and you'll notice a lot of these are using the UiPath spoke. So actually, let me check one thing real quick. I actually want the workflow designer. So yep, if I click on my flow designer, yep, and a really good question in the chat. Absolutely, we do recommend using that staging database table. So we use import sets and upserts to edit those tables, and that's absolutely a recommended best practice. And that's where you can do, keeping track of audit and failures and things like that in a non-production table, and then use whatever mechanisms you currently use to get, to promote data from the staging tables to production. So yeah, really, really good point in the chat that we did want to reiterate, and absolutely a best practice. And so within my workflow designer, what you'll see is there's multiple different applications. So this is all the potential spokes within the ServiceNow integration hub. So if I click on any of these, I'm gonna try to pick just an easy one using that UiPath spoke. It really is as simple as identifying my trigger. So again, with an RPA automation, all the possible triggers, it's really virtually unlimited with the triggers here. There's a lot of potential triggers within ServiceNow. So my trigger could be an item being created or updated. It could be scheduled, and within an application, it could be inbound email, service catalog. If you've got additional integrations, those can absolutely be triggers as well. But if I've got an item within a specific table and then I add some conditions, so I add those filters, I could say anytime an item is created with certain fields selected, maybe that indicates a new employee for onboarding, maybe it's offboarding, maybe it's some other activity that I'm doing. That could be my trigger. And then within my actions, this is where you'll see the actual actions within UiPath via Orchestrator. So if I click on this, and I don't want to make any changes to this production site, but just looking through it, there's a lot of different actions on the UiPath side. So if I search within my installed spokes for UiPath, so really important one is getting input arguments for a job. So I can absolutely set and get import arguments from ServiceNow. I can map that to field data within my ServiceNow item. I can start jobs, I can provision robots, I can do lots of different things around queues. So I can do a lookup activity to identify something, then I can provision a robot, then I can kick off a process. So the really common ones we see are starting the job and like starting a specific job. And if I click on start jobs, I can actually pick my processes. So I can select out of all my available UiPath workflows in Orchestrator, I can select which one to start. And then I can do a couple of additional things around execution target. Usually I'll just put in all robots. You can allocate dynamically by Orchestrator, so it gives you a lot of options to target a specific unattended robot, specific set of robots by environment or a machine, and then especially dynamic allocation by Orchestrator. And I can set job counts. I can set how many times I'd like it to run. It can be it can run in a loop, it can run one time and things like that. And then especially I can import arguments here from my ServiceNow ticket data there. So it gives me a lot of different options on both sides, the trigger and the actions, to identify specific items, meeting specific criteria, run them in a certain way via Orchestrator, and then kick off my process. Any questions about the spoke? I apologize, I can't show too much on this one, but we do have a demo to walk through right after this. So really good question here. To my knowledge, it is role-based. So I do believe I worked on these a couple of months ago, and I believe there was a designer developer type permission required, but I can try to confirm that while we're still on the line and get back on that, but it is definitely role-based. Now, in terms of the minimum permissions needed, I can confirm that. Yep, really good question too on is this integration reading the available robots in Orchestrator and how the folder is defined if this option is in use? To my knowledge, you can specify a folder, but to be honest, with what I've seen so far, I haven't configured to that level yet. So I can try to take that offline and see if we can find an answer. We can always use the forum to get an answer back on. What configuration is required in ServiceNow for listing Orchestrator process? Another question, I've seen it done, but I'm not intimately familiar with that. I know that's part of setting up the spokes. So you're connecting to a specific orchestrator, and then you get within specific tenants, you get all the available processes, but I can try to check on that one as well. Any other questions on the spoke? And I apologize, I'm taking a couple of these as to dos, but I mean, I can look them up, just as we're going through the session too. All right, great. So I've got one more question. Yeah, so the spoke installation does happen in ServiceNow, and the ServiceNow activities that we showed previously in Studio are going to be happening just within Studio. So that's the two different components. So within ServiceNow, I configured this spoke, which can kick off UiPath processes, jobs, robots, etc. from ServiceNow. And then in Studio, these activities are freely available if you go to manage packages, and within the official feed, if you search for ServiceNow, you'll find them. So for the activities, they're available to you immediately. They're fully supported. For the spoke, you would need the integration hub activity. There is a cost associated with it. It is part of the, I think it's called just the integration hub. I think it's intelligent activities, but I can double check on that. But there is a cost associated with the spoke. There's no cost to the activities. Any other questions on the spoke specifically? All right, great. So we've got quite a bit of time. So real quick, I did want to pull up a video that my colleague Jeremy, who was going to co-present today and help build, a lot of the things we're seeing today. I did want to present a demo that he put together that really ties a lot of this together. It uses the spoke. It uses a mainframe and a couple of additional activities. So actually, I'll go back to my slides real quick. And so the one I wanted to pull up here is so it's really tying a lot of the pieces together where, this is a case where we simulated an IVR. There's a CTI screen populated, by data from the IVR. So there's a verification activity, a couple of verification inputs that the agent will put in, and then all those questions can be answered based on data pulled from these systems. So the mainframe action in the background on the robot VM is going to be unattended, and so in that case, the UiPath robot's going to log into a mainframe, capture data, and send that information back to help with verification. And then once verified, that information captured by the agent is going to be passed back via the robot to the mainframe, which closes out the item. So I'll go ahead and pull up that video and we can walk through it real quick. Oh, I apologize. Was the video not playing?
No, I thought you were preparing it. It wasn't playing, no.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. No, let me reshare. I think my sharing stopped.
Yes. Now we can see, yeah.
All right, now you can see my screen. Let me get out of there, and then yeah, I'll restart the video. I'm so sorry about that, guys. Hopefully you guys got a little break. And there should be audio as well. If Andrea or anybody, if you can just confirm. Is that working?
Yeah, we can hear it.
Sorry about that.
Today, one of the largest challenges is that the agents on the phone have zero context as to why the person is calling in, nor do they have access to any history. Thanks to the bidirectional integration between ServiceNow and UiPath, robots and humans can work together to enhance the case agent and customer experience by providing the agent with a single view of the customer. In this
can you go back
demonstration,
to the video,
first,
please?
a customer will call the case agent.
Yep,
When the
one
call is
sec.
received, the CTI screen is populated and the interaction is
Oh,
automatically
that's the
created
video. It's
to
just the
capture the
beginning.
live
Sorry.
conversation. Next,
Thanks.
the agent verifies the customer's identity. The action of verifying the customer's identity in ServiceNow kicks off a UiPath unattended robot to log into the mainframe application, capture information about the customer, and send this information back to ServiceNow so the agent can see it. While the robot is gathering this data, the agent continues the interaction with the customer and the customer requests to change their username. Next, the agent changes the username in ServiceNow, and this action kicks off a UiPath unattended robot to change the customer data in the mainframe application. Finally, all of the customer's questions are answered and the call is complete. Now, let's take a look at this interaction live. First, John Jason, our call center agent, sets himself to available for all channels. Next, we are going to simulate Tom calling into the unemployment office. Using CTI capabilities, an interaction is populated with the consumer information identified from the phone number. Then, John, the call center agent, verifies that Tom is who he says he is by asking for verification and presses save. The action of clicking save kicks off a UiPath unattended robot on a separate machine. The UiPath robot will log into a mainframe application, gather more information about the consumer, and send this information back to ServiceNow. The agent is able to continue to do other work while the robot is gathering this data. John clicks on the Customer Information tab to get the holistic view of Tom, which can be configured to display relevant contextual information. Thanks to the UiPath robot, John can see that all claims information has been displayed from the mainframe application into ServiceNow. Having all information in a single pane gives the agent the ability to answer questions as best as possible, as well as create cases when needed. While on the call, Tom mentions that he wants to change his username on the account where he enters his claims. John navigates to the profile of Tom. Then he updates the username and saves and closes the window. This action in ServiceNow kicks off a UiPath unattended robot to change Tom's username in the mainframe application and ensure that the applications are in sync. Additionally, this helps the agent by eliminating swivel chair activities, reducing inaccuracies that occur from duplicate entries, and providing the agent a single place to take action and track interactions. And finally, John closes out the phone call by finalizing and adding any wrap-up notes that are needed. He saves the interaction and notes that the phone log has been associated to this interaction.
All right, great. So hopefully that helped provide just, I guess, a little bit of an illustration of what a lot of these things could look like together. So, you know, what you just saw, the demo you just saw, use the spoke, use the terminal activities, and then really, you know, it's meant to be a demonstration of how seamless it can be to go from one system to the other with the robot in the background. And you know, if you've got multiple applications, multiple activities, the idea is if I'm looking at my ServiceNow window, I can perform a lot of those in the background. And, you know, my incident can be updated, or, you know, my ticket, whatever I'm looking at, can be updated on the fly as I'm working. I don't have to look at any of those other systems. So I'll pause there and just check again if we had any additional questions, any thoughts or ideas, you know, just based on what we've shown.
There's one question in the chat.
Cool. Yeah. Sorry. Let me get out of the video and then it's in the chat. Yeah, so ServiceNow can be integrated with the mainframe systems. Should that have higher preference than RPA? Absolutely. If it makes more sense in your design, I think, with our UiPath activities, with the terminal activities, these are all tools that are at your disposal, but whatever integration method, you think you find to be the most reliable and makes the most sense in your workflow design, we absolutely recommend using. I think the UiPath, like the RPA activities, we see a lot of times providing a capability that you may not already have, but if you've got an integration already, you can absolutely use RPA in different ways and in different parts of your workflow if that helps. Any other questions really about, I guess, the broader topics or any specific items people had questions about? And Andrea, how are we doing on time? How much time do we have left?
We have just a few more minutes, actually. You have a few more minutes, like maybe 10 minutes, and then don't forget about the quiz.
Yeah. No, great. We can come back to a couple of things that I had in the deck, but I did want to just highlight too that there's a lot of great resources around a lot of these different components. So for the ServiceNow activities, we've got a lot of documentation on those. We've got a great get started guide that walks through every one of the activities, sort of putting them all together. So an insert, update, delete, etc., using attachments. Similar for the terminal activities pack, we've got really good documentation, also a knowledge base, a fairly long article about how to use them, how they work. The spoke in the marketplace, in the ServiceNow store, does have quite a bit of documentation as well. I've got a link to it in the store with some more information. And then for general documentation, we've got just the ServiceNow about link that I can pull up real quick that just has a lot of additional information about all those different components. So that's going to come up in one sec. So again, this really goes over that connector, like the spoke versus the ServiceNow activities. Some additional links are all aggregated here, what versions of Studio they're compatible with, how it works in terms of the different API configurations, but also just that relationship of setting up the scope, putting the activities within them, and sort of what that relates to or translates to on the ServiceNow side. So that's making API calls via the activities, and then within that application registry, so that ServiceNow instance. A couple of additional things here. I guess, since we've got a couple of minutes, is there anything else anybody wanted to see in Studio, either around the terminal activities or around the ServiceNow activities? All right, great. And just with the last couple of minutes we have, Lynette, I see you're on here. I went through use cases fairly quickly. I highlighted a couple. Curious if you had any additional use cases just to bring up.
Hi, everyone. I guess, we've seen a lot of different use cases with ServiceNow. Some ideas that we've seen is around knowledge management and self-healing ideas. We've also got customers who have, server management that they manage right out of ServiceNow, and using UiPath robots to manage the life cycle of these servers, mostly in the telecommunication space. So yeah, based on what I see, I think you've covered the majority of the ones that we typically share. And then I think the one from Autodesk, I don't know if you covered that one in depth, but that was a pretty interesting one, really, where they managed all of their license provisioning out of ServiceNow and using UiPath robots to go and provision licenses for things like SAP and Smartsheet, and that really improved the way that their customers were able to interact with the software far quicker, because robots don't go on sick leave. They don't take a break. So it's 24/7 as per the customer's comment here. So they really quickly got hold of the software and could start using it. So that was a really nice use case as well.
Cool. So Andrea, I think that's unless we've got any additional questions, maybe we can jump into the quiz and we can save a few minutes at the end for some additional Q&A if needed.
Definitely. So the chat seems clear. Everyone is really excited for the quiz.
There we go.
Yes, I'm glad. So the quiz. Just as last time, we are going to go to menti.com. I'm going to leave the link in the chat with the code for the ones who are here for the first time and seeing the quiz for the first time. Now we have 3 questions based on the content of this meetup. So if you paid attention, you should know the answers. The prize for the person who is leader after the last question, so after the third one, so the person with the biggest number of points will win a $50 voucher for UiPath swag. And I will ask that person, extra credit, to message me here on my email address. So the winner needs to remember my email address. So yet another quiz in order to receive the prize. And, without further ado, let me take out the message and put it up here. So before the first question starts, you will need to enter a nickname. The question appears. You will need to answer before the countdown ends. Super simple. And if you get the answer wrong, or if you give no answer, then you receive, of course, 0 points. And we will have a leaderboard after each question, so you know exactly where you're at. People are joining. I see here hamburgers and cats and dogs, and I need to share the screen so everybody can see this actually. There you go. So everybody can see my screen. A yes would help.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
we can
Yes.
see it.
Perfectly. So I have only 14. Okay, so let's take a bit more time to get into the quiz. For people together. So banana, hamburger. Looks like we're a bit hungry. I'm not sure if everybody had lunch or breakfast or dinner, depending on where you're from, because I've seen that today we are from a very wide range of continents and countries. 16 people. So we are 34 here. Only 16 are joining. Menti.com. Let me put the link again. I'm having trouble joining. So Samir, www.menti.com, MANTI.com. You can open it on your phone as well. You enter that and you use the code 4170071. So 4170071. 0751. Let's see. We're still at 16. I really want you to join us. But if not, you will have a chance during the last meetup. There you go. I think you joined. We're 17. I think we can start now. Let me go to, and please prepare. Look at your phone and answer, or at your laptop. So I hope you paid attention. Let's see. Woohoo! You got 10 correct answers.
Yeah,
That's
always pick the
actually,
longest answer, huh?
that's a good strategy.
Great
Okay.
job, man.
Good job. Let's see how we can go for the next one. So this is the leaderboard. And I think I moved too fast. We'll spend more time on the leaderboard next time. So let's see the question. True or false? I love these questions. They're really simple, like 50% chance of getting the answer. You're answering really fast, people. Woohoo! Okay, so we have 15 correct responses, 15 people who were either really lucky or actually paid attention.
Well, no, I definitely appreciate somebody called that out in the chat. So yeah, definitely glad for that.
Yeah, let's see. Michael. Oh my God.
Well, hold
Michael.
on. We do have we've got the second question if we can get to it, Andrea. But yeah, I think Michael's leading right now.
Yeah.
And Michael, the answer to your question is yes, too. There is a grand prize. It's money for UiPath swag. So it's not a gift card. Or anything,
$50 worth of swag.
yeah.
Sorry, I think I missed the question. Okay, that we understand. What?
Well, we can't get to it. I think Michael's the winner. So yeah, let's see.
Let's see. We have reached the end of the presentation, but we had 3 questions, not 2. Right?
We did, yeah. Let's see if we can get back to it.
Let's see. Let me try.
Yeah, this is kind of what terminal emulation automation feels like sometimes. It's a lot of going back and forth, guys.
Right? This is the live demo for sure.
Exactly.
So this one was the first, and then we had the true and false one.
Yep, and I think there's one in the middle. There it is. Yep, I think we got it.
Let's see. Okay, we got it. Whew. So where's the ServiceNow Spoke available in? Fast. And we gave Michael some hopes that he actually won. Oh, so just 6 correct answers. I think you need to say this info again because people actually got fooled. I made the same mistake when I did the quiz. So
So I did want to highlight, if you go to the links, even just that top link, in the deck when we send it out, that's definitely gonna capture a little bit of this, like where to get what. Wow, that really got close at the end, huh?
yeah, let's see. So we have, oh, very, very close.
Oh, that's a photo finish. Great job for Michael there. So yeah, no
Wow.
protest either.
Yeah, Michael, congratulations. So please make sure send an email on my address. Let me leave it again in the chat to receive your swag. And of course, we want a picture with you with the swag. Please choose something cool. Thank you
Oh,
so
thanks
much.
so much, Rakesh. Yeah, no, we really appreciate that. And I know we covered a lot quickly, so appreciate everyone's patience with little technical hiccups and all of that. But no, thank you all. I'm adding my LinkedIn too. Feel free to connect with us anytime. But yeah, really appreciate everyone's time today.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your time, both Mo and Michael. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, Lynette, for bringing us together. Thank you all for staying in through the technical hiccups that were really many today somehow, but we managed to get until the end. Thank you all for being here. And I also want to mention something really important, that next week on the 15th and 16th of June, we are going to be live at DevCon in the sessions as well as in the Expertsville rooms. So we hopefully will get to see each other there as well. I left the link in the chat, so feel free to join. It's free. It's the most interesting conference for developers and by developers. So it's gonna be a great meeting spot for all of us again. So I hope to see you all next week there.
Definitely.
Thank you.
And I did want to highlight too that we've got, or you guys have Salesforce and SAP SuccessFactors coming up as sessions. So lots of great
Definitely.
stuff, lots of great tools and platforms.
So Salesforce, we have Salesforce on the 24th this month. And then SAP on the 1st of July. So don't forget DevCon and then Salesforce and then SAP. I will leave links for these as well. So you save them, join, and thank you all. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.